Alright, kamusta kayo dyan mga kameta? Good morning, good evening, depende kung saan kayo sa mundo. Ayan, early morning naman medyo dito. So bago tayo habol sa mga trabaho at mga engagements natin, sabi ko ano lang tayo dyan, konting update lang tayo because ang hindi natin na-cover kahapon dito sa Quiboloy saga was yung response ni Sara Duterte, which I think is important because it tells you about yung mga conversations na nangyari sa kampo ng mga DDS, and it also tells you something about anong basa ng mga big political actors or how big political funding dito sa issue na yan. Alright? Pag-usapan natin yan mga kameta. And then of course, balikan din natin itong warning ni Senator Risa Ontiveros, very very stark warning na talagang kung hindi ito magpakita kahit may sapina ng ibang usapan na yan, grabe na yan. And of course, inulit ni Senator Risa Ontiveros some of the stark accusations laban dito sa person of interest na yan, itong religious group na yan, itong self-anointed. My God, I cannot even say it because for me, blasphemous yan, di ba? Grabe. I don't know how we allow people to get away with, I mean, especially for dun sa mga kababayan natin na malakas yung kanilang, pananampalataya. I don't know how we allow certain people to get away with extremely blasphemous kind of self-appointed titles and all of that, no? Not to mention, mga kameto, of course, itong mga my goodness, meron pa tayong situation na wow, siya pang victim, 'di ba? Kahapon pinag-usapan natin guys 'yan in great detail. Pinag-usapan natin ang pagiging Karen and how to deal with the Karens of this world. Although of course may debate pa rin na paano natin tawagin yung mga Karen na lalaki. Kevin, Ken, meron akong nakitang bagong suggestion kasi nag-comment ako dun sa isang video ng mga Karen dyan sa Karenfornia. Yan, kasi dyan sa California, ang dami mga Karens dun. Sa awayan ng mga Karen yun. So nag-comment na ako ng Karen. May mga sumasagot na pangalan nila Karen. Tapos, siyempre, nagsasarcastic sila. Alam naman nila saan tayo galing. Anong hugot natin sa mga Karen. Pero eto, nag-suggest yung isang Karen sa akin na, ano yan, dapat tawagan sa mga lalaki ng Karen ay Darren. Tapos, nga, napaisip ako, pwede rin pala yan eh. Pero kasi gusto ko, guys, letter K rin yung start eh. Malakas kasi ang dating pag K ang start, parang Kevin. Huwag Ken, kasi Ken and Barbie yan, di ba? Kevin or sige, Darren, para lang hindi ma-hurt yung mga Kevin. Kasi mas konti atang kilala kong pangalan na Darren kaysa Kevin. So baka ayun na lang safe option natin. So guys, whether ito ay Darren, Karen, Kevin, or Ken, guys, ito talaga. Dapat di tayo ayan. Kasi lalo yung mga yan, guys, ito yung mga Karen, Darren na yan. Sabi nga ni, ano yung expression na sinabi ni Dr. Lele Claudio, ayaw magpahuli ng buhay, 'di ba? Well, in this case, mukhang literal yan because actually, ang claim na itong person of interest na yan is hindi na siya nagpapakita ng kanyang physiognomy. Of course, kasi special siya. But the other thing is, sinasabi din niya na nasa panganib ang kanyang buhay daw dahil dito sa pangyayari kasi parang may witch hunt daw na nangyari. And of course, pag-usapan din natin yung sinasabi ni Sara Duterte kasi para naman kay Sara, isa pa yan. Sila pa ang victim. Ang interesting nga kay Sara, pag-usapan natin later on very quickly, is pag nag-video siya na yung prepared na video, sobrang maamo, sobrang mabait, sobrang 'di ba? Which is very very different dun sa imahe natin, 'di ba? Sa mga Duterte, especially Sara Duterte. I mean, let's be honest, guys. When I say Sara Duterte, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Or to put it more accurately, what was the first memory you had of Sara Duterte? Like when you get to know about the existence of these people in our political landscape. Even, I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm just being honest. Like the first time I heard about these people, right? People talaga. Hindi yung kinapak sa pak na yung fiscal, 'di ba? Dun sa nangyaring demolition dyan sa Davao. This is more than 10 years ago, 'di ba? Na nasa TV patrol all over the place back in the day nung time na mainstream media was still the main source of information. Now, interesting actually guys, kind of segue lang tayo. Suggest ko check the book of Patricia Evangelista, especially the chapter when she discusses this episode. because yung book ni Patricia Evangelista, it does a very, very good job, among others, of analyzing the roots of Dutertismo and Duterte approach to politics, DDS even itself. I'm talking about the original DDS, not yung diehard Duterte supporters. And one of the things it does is it also may part dyan na in-interview ni Patricia Evangelista si Sara Duterte, or someone from Rappler interviewed her. And ayon kay Sara, actually, she was, I mean, this is in the book, you can check it yourself. Ayon kay Sara, she was actually not very happy with that episode. That she rather, para sa kanya, better sana na hindi siya nakilala sa buong bansa, if not sa buong mundo, because of that episode. Pero parang, I think what Patricia was trying to say is because of the machismo, let's be honest, toxic machismo kind of political expectation sometimes. May mga liderato tayo na kababahian na minsan parang napipilitan sila na for the lack of better term, overcompensate, 'di ba? Na may pressure sa kanila to be matapang, especially kung tatay may si Digong, kung sanay ng mga tao sa ganong klaseng politiko. In fairness, I still see unfair. Yeah, I see unfair. So I don't want to jump into kind of stereotypes and all of that. But I found that interesting because I did not see any quotes or interviews along those lines kung saan si Sara Duterte ay nag-express ng somehow regret about yung episode na yan in terms of not reflecting well on her as a leader. At dun sa mga kasama natin, mga kameta natin na are from Davao or familiar with Davao, of course, alam niyo naman yung panahon na actually si Sara yung mayor at si Digong yung vice mayor. At base sa alam ko, nakausap natin mga kaibigan natin sa Davao kasi I've given talks in Davao, marami kong kaibigan dyan na throughout the years. Well, kaibigan ko sila. Hopefully, kaibigan din ako. may nagbiro nga si Richard daw. Ang sabi na sa akin si Richard, ikaw ay isang public frenemy number one sa Davao. In fairness, ang ganda ng experience ko na sa Davao kami. Thank God. Napaka-hospitable yung mga kaibigan natin sa Davao. So I really had a fantastic time there. But if of course, hindi ako magtataka kung may mga tao na hindi natutuwa dun sa mga sinasabi natin katotohanan, just to be honest about it. Of course, some people have inuuna yung kanilang mga political beliefs rather than factual analysis. But alam ko rin maraming din sa ating mga kababayan na not necessarily sang-ayon sa sinasabi natin, ay actually mas malapit ang kanilang puso sa mga Duterte, pero na-appreciate din nila saan tayo galing. So, anyway, having said that, balikan natin ito. So, as you know, si Quiboloy, o yan, na-mention na natin siya. Actually, sabi niya, dahil nanganganib ang buhay ko ay hindi po muna niyo makikita ang aking pagmumuka. Ang akin lang po, munang boses ang inyong maririnig. Ito yung quote po dyan na talagang si Kuya, no? Kasi daw, di ba? So, parang labas pa ngayon, sila pa yung threatened. Ang labas pa, parang sila pang biktima ngayon, di ba? So, kaya nga sabi ko, pati ko mahanap yung video ng kanyang 35 minutes talk yata yung isang araw no, kung saan nag-respond siya dito sa mga accusations of abuse, assault, sexual assault. And of course, kung maalala nyo, ang sagot niya, kaya nga ang dami natin sinabi about Darren and all of that is, bakit lumalabas si Christy Fermin dito sa, isa pa yung Christy Fermin yan. Hindi, ito. Ito guys. Naman tayo, nagloloko na naman tayo. Hindi, bakit nawala nga talagang Christy Fermin talaga yan nandyan eh. Ay nako, anong update nyo kay Christy Fermin? Hindi, ito guys. Speaking of Quiboloy, okay. Maalala niyo, pinag-usapan natin kahapon yan na parang pinapalabas pa niya na siya pang victim, na pinag-aawayan siya ng mga babae daw kasi, syempre, alam mo naman, siya po ay isang anointed, self-anointed, ganito na ganyan ng mundo. So, pinag-aawayan daw siya ng babae at ginagamit daw siya ng mga babae for, I don't know, lack of a better term, upward social mobility. Now, again, as I said, that's quite a reversal, quite a questionable reversal. Marami sa atin na nakinig dun sa mga hearings among others. Less, this is proven in court beyond reasonable doubt, we'll still describe this as allegations. Pero huwag niyo kalimutan guys, pagdating sa US Embassy, pagdating sa FBI, pagdating sa mga otoridad dito sa Amerika, para sa kanila, there is preponderance of evidence na nag-engage sa systematic violation of human rights and exploitative practices itong person of interest na yan. Kaya nga si Quiboloy, actually, sinabi niya, isa sa mga kanyang concern is not extradition sa Amerika, meaning Philippine authorities coming in and according to due process, arresting him and then handing him over to the authorities in the United States in accordance dun sa mga provisions of an extradition treaty sa pagitan ng Pilipinas and ng Estados Unidos. No, ang sabi niya baka mangyari sa kanya is yung parang extraordinary rendition kung saan dadamputin siya at dadalhin siya sa Amerika for cases. Diyos ko, parang biglang naalala ko yung mga ano sa Guantanamo discussion, di ba naalala yung global war on terror, marami mga tao daw ay na extraordinary rendition all around the world, dinala sa Amerika or dinala sa Guantanamo for. But anyway, I don't know kung may basehan yung sinasabi niya. I think as far as the US is concerned, they want to handle this in the most, let's say, sensible way, and the most sensible way is dadaan ito sa mga otoridad dyan sa Pilipinas, which of course raises again bigger questions about the state of affairs. Kaya nga sabi ko mahalaga yung sasabihin ng mga malalaking political figures in the country, including of course Sara Duterte. Now speaking of Sara Duterte, I said kanina nga, Sara Duterte now I think is trying to project this image of kind of a motherly, cool, calm, collected kind of leader. Kaya ako, I pay very close attention dun sa kanyang mga speeches, sa kanyang interventions, the timing, the cadence, the core message among others. So ang nilalabas talaga dito ng mga ng Duterte camp is this Quiboloy saga is being exploited by certain people who want to take her out as the front runner for 2028 election. So yun yung angle na binibigay ni Sara Duterte dito sa essentially everyone piling on these issues. Now speaking of everyone piling on, I mean, again, as I always said, kudos to Senator Risa for really taking the lead on this. And it looks like finally we are at a situation whereby sumasama na yung mga ibang liderato, no? Especially leaders not only sa Senado who are in charge of overseeing a subpoena para may legal enforcement talaga ng itong hearings na to na dapat nagpakita itong tao na to. But we're seeing also in the Philippine House of Representatives, which is not necessarily known as the bastion of fiscalization of abuses and all, to be honest about it, also coming in and saying na nasusuportahan nila. In fairness naman, there are many sincere folks, including si Congressman Adyong, among others, have also emphasized the need for enforcement of any kind of, magpakita talaga ng tao na ito. Dapat may subpoena talagang dapat may respeto dito sa mga powers of the legislature for summoning people, for questioning people on matters of interest to legislation and matters of interest to the mandato, dun sa mandato ng legislatura. Na anyway, balikan natin ito. I just find this interesting kasi guys, tingnan.
Ang pag-atake at pagbato ng sari-saring issue laban sa Vice Presidente.
So immediately, ang entry talaga ni Sara Duterte dito is yung context ng 2020 election. So immediately ang framing nila dito is this is about all politics. So parang kina-question ang interest, ang intention ng at least some people. Hindi pinangalanan si Risa dito, but ang nilalabas dito is a lot of this is about politics, mudslinging, partisan kind of interest.
Marahil sapagkat ang Vice Presidente ang tumatay paysayan ng Pilipinas, naging kagawian na ang pag-atake at pagbato ng sari-saring issue laban sa Vice Presidente. Marahil sapagkat ang Vice Presidente ang tumatayong pangunahing hadlang sa mga nangangarap maging Pangulo. Hindi ko ikakagulat kung dumami pa ang mga kaso, investigasyon, testigo paratang atake at paninira laban sa akin sa mga susunod na araw, linggo, buwan at mga taon. Naniniwala ako na may tamang panahon para sa lahat. Panahon ngayon ng aking pagtatrabaho.
Ayan.
Pa rin ko
Sorry
at paninira laban sa akin
paninira.
sa mga
Okay, yan ang
susunod na araw,
framing.
linggo, buwan at mga taon. Naniniwala ako na may tamang panahon para sa lahat. Panahon ngayon ng aking pagtatrabaho. Tutuparin ko ang sinumpaang tungkulin. Uunahin ko ang mga tunay na suliranin. Kasaysayan ng
So,
Pilipinas.
essentially, ang framing dito is, ang focus ko dito ay aking trabaho, aking mandato bilang Vice Presidente. Although I found it quite interesting na sinasabi niya like the Vice President is kind of like the protective layer dun sa mga tao na may mischievous intent, or who are eyeing greedily yung office of the president. Last time I checked, actually the vice president is the one who will automatically move up if just in case things don't work out for the president, to put it mildly. But anyways, I just found that phrasing quite interesting. I'm not questioning the intention of the vice president. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I just found that kind of argument kind of strange, because if there's one person who has an interest, I mean, if there's one person who move up immediately, is the vice president. Mamaya pa yung Senate President, Speaker of the House, etc. base sa ating saligang batas. Now, obviously, let's discuss very quickly anong konteksto nitong intervention by Sara Duterte. So clearly, makikita niyo dito sa intervention ni Sara Duterte na sinasabi niya na focus lang siya sa kanyang trabaho, ayaw niya makisali dito sa mga drama-drama, politika, na marami dyan, ginagamit lang nila itong mga Quiboloy saga to try to score points against her. There are many people there who are trying to position for the 2020 elections. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sino ba tong mga to na nagpo-position for 2020 elections, diba? I mean, last time I checked, the one who's leading in the surveys right now na hindi pinapublish for some reason are actually si Rafi Tulfo. And last time I checked, hindi andiyan ba si Rafi Tulfo dun sa mga hearings ni Risa? Parang hindi. At I haven't heard much from Rafi Tulfo when it comes to this issue. I mean, at least not as much for us to think nang nangyari dito is parang ano siya, nakiki-Karen siya or nakikisal siya. I don't know, I'm just saying. Because there are also a lot of people that are commenting here who have no interest whatsoever in 2020 elections, or they're not even in a position to think about the 2020 elections at this point in time, right? Anyway, obviously, when it comes to the Duterte Quiboloy issue, one angle is the more direct angle, because dun sa mga nagtestigo laban kay Quiboloy, isa sa mga sinasabi nila is, so ito yung statement ni Sara in Tagalog, isa sa sinasabi ng mga tao dun sa hearings is that si Quiboloy daw nagbibigay ng barel daw or something like that dito sa mga Duterte, etc. So, pag-usapan natin ng shortly yan, no? Ito yung mga accusations, no? Na, ayan, saan, I'm just trying to, ito. Duterte's statement comes after a former member of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Ito yung ni Quiboloy. Sinabi niya sa Senado nung Monday na Duterte received guns daw from Quiboloy when she was still mayor daw of Davao. Dun sa Senate Committee on Women, Children, and Gender Equality, overseen by the Deputy Minority Leader. I mean, I find the Deputy Minority Leader position quite strange, because dalawa na nga lang silang opposition. Isa na nga lang na genuine opposition, ginawa pang Deputy Minority Leader. Anyway, held its second hearing dun sa alleged abuses committed by this person of interest at yung kanyang simbahan. There is this person who went by alias Rene. Sabi niya na he had seen yung ating Vice Presidente at former President Rodrigo Duterte. Pumisita daw sila dun sa bahay ng compound na itong person of interest, dun sa Glory Mountain, kung saan kumukuha daw sila ng bags of guns. So, yun po yung accusation na ninilevel ng itong alias Rene, who also, of course, talk about, among others, itong mga exploitative practices, extremely exploitative practices, allegedly, and even sexual abuses, among others, including against people who are male, right, biologically male. So, yeah, so yun po yung tinitingnan natin dito. So Ren said he worked as a landscaper dun kay Quiboloy and was physically abused daw, sabi niya. He also testified to being forced by the church to beg for alms on the street, after which he would fork over the money to them. He said na daily quota daw nila is 3,000 pesos. Wow! 3,000 pesos. Saan ka kuha? 3,000 pesos. Wow. Sabi na he was forced to work as a researcher for television network for SMNI din daw without pay. At times daw, Quiboloy would allegedly give them allowances of 200 pesos to 300 pesos lang. At si former president naman dun sa weekly show na may called Kikan sa Masa para sa Masa. of course, itong SMNI, may show talaga si Digong there. So that tells you about the level of closeness between these two sides, no? One second lang guys, kailangan ko lang mag-reply dito. Sorry. Nag, okay, mamaya, wait lang. Okay, anyway, so the first thing is there's this line of accusation from Elias Rene na things have been exchanged, at the level of guns and all of that. Kaya itong response ni Sara Duterte. But aside from dito sa bags of gun accusations, allegations ng mga yung mga nag-expose at mga former members ng church na yan, the thing is, of course, it's also the political branding, 'di ba? Pag tinignan mo yung Davao politics, essentially, of course, there's the Nograles among others. But, hindi sila yung in positions of power over the past decade or so. I remember back in the day, yung si Senior Nograles was the Speaker of the House. I think panahon ni Aroy yun, di ba? There was a time that we would think the Nograles are the upward trajectory. But the reality is that what we're seeing right now is that essentially this duo of Digong and Quiboloy have been the dominant face and force as far as the Davao politics is concerned. And then may aspect din dyan na si ang pangalan niya, si Pantaleon Alvarez ay nandun din sa eksena na yan to a certain degree. But really this duo, right? So if you look at their branding and you look at their institutional ties, their personal ties, if you look at the itong ginagawa ng SMNI, so in a way, they're political twins. They kind of come in packages, especially the former president. Ibang usapan niya si Sara, but if you look at the former president, he has a show dito sa SMNI, gikan sa masa para sa masa. Of course, as far as most people are concerned, if you look at dito sa SMNI na yan, it's kind of seen as like, kumbaga kung Fox News if the accusation is that the Fox News in the US is essentially the propaganda arm of the Republican Party or Trump to a certain degree. Of course, the accusation in the Philippines, at least for the critics of ang SMNI po, has been fulfilling that role in behalf of Digong, or at least a mindset or mentality or ideology na similar dun sa pag-iisip, no, at paradigms ni Digong. Kasi kung titingnan niyo yung mga interventions not only of Quiboloy but a lot of people who worked there, a lot of them actually were there during the Duterte administration. At least one of them was this presidential spokesman of Digong. If you look at yung emphasis nila sa federalism, yung emphasis nila sa what critics would see as red tagging or kind of demonization of people affiliated with the left. If you look at their stance on the war on drugs, if you look at their stance on America, if you look at stance on China, among others, SMNI's essentially framing of issues is very similar to how Rodrigo Duterte would do it, right? So there's definitely that aspect of political entwinement, between Quiboloy and Duterte. So there's not only this aspect of direct accusations of bags of guns. There's also this aspect of branding, or kind of a political entwinement between Quiboloy and Duterte. So that's why kaya sabi ko, interesado ako parati to see how the Duterte camp will respond to this. So far, the response we see immediately from Sara Duterte is, wala akong kinalaman dyan. I'm above the fray. I'm just gonna focus on my job. Wag niyo ako idamay dun sa mga ewan nyo. Wala akong kinalaman dyan. And I know yung mga iba, they're trying to drag me into this issue. They have their own political ambitions. Like, what, Risa has political ambitions in 2028? I mean, sabi ko, hindi pa nga settled sinong leader of opposition. So, anyway, so that's the accusation being levied back at those who are accusing at least Sara Duterte. Let's see what Digong will say or some of the other Duterte supporters say. But I think on the third level, and this is the important thing. So the first thing is, itong direct accusations of bags of guns. Na she needs to strike down immediately Sara Duterte, because that has crazy implications. Second is this political entwinement, branding, this whole Quiboloy Duterte kind of package, which we have been quite familiarized with, to put it mildly, over the past decade or so. Pero pangatlo, and importantly, is, as I said, mahirap na hiwalayan itong issue ni Quiboloy dun from the other parallel issue, although quite different in nature and implication, of yung ICC investigations against Digong. Because let's just be honest, if you look at it from a psychological and political standpoint, the person of interest in our discussion went from someone who was seen in many ways as untouchable. I mean, naalala ko yung time ng billboard niya, nandyan sa EDSA, self-anointed son of, my goodness, I mean, my Lord, my God, I mean, I cannot even say it, diba? Itong tao na to, meron silang media outlet, mga bayani, na, all over the place, doing very well actually online, in fairness, I'll tell you that. This is a person na, di ba parang may back and forth pa with si Vice Ganda ba yan? At some point in time. Diba, nagsasagutan sila ni Vice Ganda, no? So, I mean, this is a person seen as almost untouchable, right? For a very long time. Not untouchable in the kind of Brahmin caste system way, but untouchable in terms of napakalakas niya. Don't even think about it. And the fact that Risa Hontiveros, itong mga investigations na ginagawa sa Senate, I mean, my goodness, nasaan yung mga ibang senators, nasaan yung ibang figures? Ang tagal na si Risa lang talaga nag-oversee nito. That tells you na almost there was this aura of invincibility, aura of untouchability, no? Invincibility dito around sa person of interest na yan. And then now suddenly, ang sinasabi ng tao na yan na he cannot even show his face sa videos among others because siguro matrack daw yung kanyang locations, or who knows? I mean, right? You can think of many things. Bakit kaya ayaw magpakita ng mukha sa video? So this person now is essentially, nagtatago, diba? So that's quite something, to go from invincibility to nagtatago. Totally trying to avoid the arm of the state or authorities or any kind of direct scrutiny or tracking down. This is quite something. Go from invincibility and all of that, and all that aura of untouchability, to this. It's huge. It's a huge psychological and political shift. So I'm not saying it's exactly parallel case, because the ICC case is much more complicated. It is not the FBI. It's not the United States. BBM, being BBM, once again, sabi niya, no, hindi kayo magko-cooperate sa ICC and all of that. But then again, mga kameta, you're talking about the former president, who was also seen as invincible, who is now not seen as vulnerable necessarily, but also not so invincible, right? So I think that is where there are some people are going to be concerned na baka itong nangyari kay Quiboloy na ito is just a kind of a dry run, right? Or it will pave the way for also a massive move on the ICC front. Now again, katulad ng pinag-usapan natin doon sa mga dating episodes, and I think my good friend and co-host Ronaldo Liamas did a very good job. Sabi niya, iba yung FBI, iba yung ICC, iba yung mga cases na yan. I understand that. But there's also aspect of investigation, some sort of international judicial body or international law enforcement body trying to go after someone who's invincible and trying to go after someone who was part of the core power elite, no? Not long ago. So if the invincibility of Quiboloy is something that is withering away, the question right now is the invincibility of Duterte going to be the next thing? As far as Sara is concerned, she's distancing herself from that. Now, the interesting thing is, as far as Risa Hontiveros is concerned, tuloy-tuloy ang kanyang push dito para sa hostisya. Ang Embahada ng Amerika also released a statement talking about, vowing justice, that, walang takas dito sa hostisya, kung ano ang drama dyan, hindi mag-work yan, kahit anong Karen, Darren, Kevin, Ken ang mangyari dyan, hindi mag-work yan dahil meron na silang ebidensya, no, na they have overwhelming evidence of abuses and all happening. At least ito yung sinasabi ng Amerika. Now, as far as Risa Hontiveros is concerned, she also made it very clear.
No? Pag hindi sila nagpakita sa susunod na hearing, March 5, isa-cite ko sila in contempt, aaresto ko siya. Should the subpoena
Yan, so
mabalaan ko sila, no? Pag hindi sila nagpakita sa susunod.
Actually, there's another press conference that Risa Hontiveros did just the other day, no? Na grabe din na inulit itong mga some of the accusations that were
i-deliver, isa-serve ng OSAA, ng Senate Security, kay Pastor Quiboloy sa Davao. stronger than an invitation. Kailangan sundin niya, i-heed niya yung subpoena. Complex yung mukha ng mga yan na nararanasan ng mga dating miyembro, dating scholars, dating ginagawang pulubi ni Quiboloy sa loob ng kingdom. Lumalabas yung mga aspeto ng paglabag sa karapatan ng bata, pagpipigil or pag-neglect sa karapatan nilang makapag-aral, pagpupumilit sa kanilang magmalimos sa kalsada, yung mga pagpupumilit din sa ibang mga miyembro nila maglimos, at kapag hindi nila mahit yung goal or quota nila, pinaparusahan sila
Grabe,
ng
di ba?
physical punishment. Lumalabas na meron pa silang nalalamang mga dating kasama na met-maya, patay na. And
Grabe.
by similar, if not identical modus operandi, 2 bullets to the head.
Grabe.
May mga labor violations na lumalabas, pinapatrabaho sila whether as nagmamalimos o as mga researcher o mga cameramen, pero walang sahod, walang benefits. At syempre, yung una na nating narinig sa unang pagdinig pa lang, yung pang-aabuso
Grabe.
sa mga kababaihan at pati mga menor de edad. Rape, other forms of sexual abuse,
Grabe itong mga accusations na yan.
palala ng palala. At palawak ng palawak, and I think palinaw ng palinaw yung larawan ng mga pang-aabuso sa loob ng kingdom.
Naman, may nagko-comment dyan ng fabricated lahat ng mga yan. Sabi nga ni Bato, kung wala naman kayong ginawa, wala kayong dapat ikakatakot. Diba? Ganun kasimple lang naman. Kung fabrication lahat mga to, ay kung lahat naman to ay gawa-gawa lang, kung yung isa pa yung viktima na nag-feeling Joseph, my goodness, ito na naman yung mga almost blasphemous claims na yan. I-disprove niya yan. Pero ako naman, just to be fair, as I said, unless ito ay hindi proven sa courts, sa ating mga korte, beyond reasonable doubt, will still classify them, put them in the bag, in the category of allegations. But as I said, there's also this aspect na pagdating sa FBI at international authorities, para sa kanila, meron na yung preponderance of evidence. So it's not like galing lahat ito out of nowhere, right? So you're seeing evidence and testimonies and witnesses from all different sides coming together to make these kinds of allegations and all of that. But as I said, kung wala ka naman ginawang mali, dapat wala kang ikakatakot. Simple lang naman yung sinasabi natin dito di ba? Kasi yun din lang naman sinasabi nila nung panahon na sila yung nasa power, right? So are they saying na walang rule of law sa Pilipinas? Are they saying na tiwala lang sila sa mga sistema natin just when they're in position of powers themselves, right? So, I don't know. I mean, well, we know actually the answer. This is a rhetorical, I don't know. But as I said, once again, this is also the moment when we see the mettle of leadership of Risa Ontiveros. Kasi grabe, ang binabangga ni Risa Ontiveros ngayon ay hindi lang isa sa mga pinaka quote-unquote charismatic religious leaders from the South, from Mindanao, where there's a lot of resentment against progressive liberals, there's a lot of resentment against Imperial Manila, there's a lot of support for Duterte and for Quiboloy, among others. Ang binabangga din niya ay, in effect, indirectly, the vice president, a very powerful political dynasty. And in a way, as far as I know, Risa is not on good terms with PBM, the current president. I mean, after all, unlike some Dilawan and all of that, Risa Ontiveros has stood her ground, and she's true and true a progressive, and true and true sticking to her convictions. And nakita natin, from the Kion de los Santos case all the way to this case, nung nilabas yung case ni Kion de los Santos, na nagdala siya ng mga witnesses. Right? Let's talk about her track record. Nung time na nilabas niya yung mga witnesses dun sa killing ni Kion de los Santos, right? Dun sa nangyaring extrajudicial killing. Nag-invento ba siya? Gawa-gawa lang ba yan? Last time we checked, actually, even during Digong's time, people were held accountable in court, in a court of law, sa Caloocan yan, di ba? For the killing of Kion de los Santos. So, Risa Ontiveros has a very strong track record, all right, of coming up with witnesses and going after cases of abuse and coming out not only vindicated by history but vindicated by courts and evidence. But then again, as I said, right? If wala namang ginawang mali, dapat wala silang ikakatakot. At itong idea ng mga extraordinary rendition, I don't know about that. Medyo baka stretch yan. But then again, as I said, this is not only about Quiboloy. This is also about this bigger shifts in our political landscape. This is about the Dutertes, and that's why you see this kind of intervention by Sara. But as I said, what I found very interesting with Sara Duterte is that ang nilalabas na dito is parang siya yung, di ba, yung parang above the fray political figure, which is quite something different from what we know from dun sa kanyang positioning and projection and all of that back in the day. On that note, thank you very much mga kameta. Balikan natin itong issue na to as more and more updates come in. Have a good, blessed evening and good morning naman dun sa mga nasa time zone natin. On that note, thank you very much. God bless and talk to you soon. God willing. Salamat po.